Welcome, welcome to the Soberish Uprising. My name is Holly Krivokapich, a former heavy drinker who started a Soberish Uprising a little over 2 years ago, and everything in her life has changed. On the Soberish Uprising, we tell stories of finding freedom from alcohol on our own terms, making it our best power move. Today is my final episode of 2024. It is hard to believe. 2023. I'm already in 2024, our final episode of 2023. And I am forever grateful for this opportunity to be able to speak about my journey, to show others sharing their journey, to hopefully inspire you if you're somebody who's curious. So, starting with a thank you. And I'm proud of you for listening. I'm proud of those people who are taking a different stance on drinking and doing things different. So, thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. Thank you for being part of my journey. And I am so excited for all the big things we're all going to do going into next year. So, final episode of the season. Going to take a little bit of time off, enjoy my holidays, my soberish holidays, and then a lot of fun new things coming up in next year. So let's get going. So for this episode, I'm going to do some of my favorite things from this podcast this year, my own learnings, what I've learned from the people I've interviewed. So it's kind of like Oprah's favorite things, but like nobody's getting a car or really anything except just some great information. So let's go. I want to start a little bit with my journey. Again, if you're new here, I started my soberish journey September 13th, 2021. And yeah, everything shifted. And so I am 2 years in, and it's always so fascinating. This first thing, my favorite thing is like, this is truly a journey, right? You go through your first year and you have all these firsts, right? And you're like, oh, I navigate that. I know what that looks like. And then the second year, you're like, oh, wow, I have all these other new firsts. And the next year, there's new firsts, right? And so all these moments, right? And it's so fascinating. Even this week, I had an insight that I'm like, that's interesting. I haven't had that pop up. And it just shows what a journey this can be. There is no rush. There is no like final run through. You won, you finished. Like it is a journey, which also feels like a lot less pressure, right? There's no rush. There's no way there's going to be ups and downs and lessons learned. And that's totally normal. And we know that, right? We know that life is a journey and that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, all these analogies. But we can get really wrapped up when we're making a change like sobriety to think there is like an end, and there's not. And again, I am still discovering new moments of pride where I'm really proud of myself for not drinking. I'm having new moments of feeling triggered that I hadn't had come up. So it's such a experiment. It's a journey. It's approaching it with curiosity, right? Like, why am I feeling that way? That's interesting. I have these new moments of feeling really proud. I have these moments of feeling triggered. Like there's always something new that I'm approaching with curiosity, right? And it makes sense that stuff is still happening new, right? Because 20 years or so, I had like a certain habit. It was a part of my life. So it makes sense that like I'm uncovering these layers of yearning, of wanting, of curiosity, of like just discovery. And so it's really cool because again, there's no final destination. Like sobriety, soberish, it's like the first step to leading this life that we want to lead. You know, this past week, or probably a week and a half, I really like kind of wanted to drink, right? And I think it was because I had Thanksgiving, we went to an event, it was a late birthday celebration. There's all these moments that I would have wanted to drink. And I finally made a decision earlier this week, conscious decision. I wanted to have a glass of wine. We had done some baking and delivering. We were watching a Christmas movie, puzzle, all the cozier. I was like, I really want a nice glass of red wine. And it was so interesting because I had half a glass and I just did not want it. It wasn't tasting good. I wasn't feeling great. And so I just decided to just not have it. So I gave it over to Katie and she finished it off. But what was interesting when I noticed it is how I was getting stuck on the number, right? Because in my mind, I said, oh, like I'm tracking my drinks. I haven't had a drink in like 60 days. If I'm going to have a drink, I should have a full one, not a half one, right? Otherwise it doesn't count. And all this like mental unnecessary math that was so fascinating to watch and be like, Holly, it doesn't matter. Like the goal is to feel good, right? The goal isn't a number on a calendar that you may care about, but most people don't. And even caring about the numbers in service of myself. And so it was really fascinating to watch that come up of like, why are you not drinking for a number? Or are you not drinking because you don't, or you want to feel better? And again, that choice, it was a conscious drink. I have no regrets of it. I had that half a glass, woke up feeling fine, all that. But it was again, it's a journey. You're going to be discovering all sorts of things. And that's like also what makes it really cool, right? So one of my favorite things is continue to step into this is truly a journey. Number 2, I spend a lot of my day talking about booze, talking about being soberish, talking about drinking. And I still am spending less mind space now than I was when I was drinking. It energetically feels different, right? When I was drinking more, it was like a lower level energy. This is like a higher. I am emotionally detached from a lot of what I was doing. But one of my favorite things is that like I am spending a lot of time talking about booze, but not wanting booze, right? It has simultaneously become the most important thing in my life and also the least important thing in my life. Which again, you're probably like, well, wait, what do you mean? Like, it's the most important thing to me to honor myself, especially around my drinking. When am I going to drink? Why am I drinking? Do I really want this drink? What's the purpose behind this drink? Like, staying true to myself is so important. Working with women and men around this is so important to me. But booze, it is like not even a factor in my life. There's so many other things that have filled that space. And so it's really been fascinating to see that how it was both such a big piece of my life, but one energetically feels totally different. And so it's really that shift from booze to freedom. And I think it's also a realization is we don't realize how much mind space and energy it takes up until it's gone, right? Those moments of, I want that drink, or the next day, like, oh, I don't feel as good. All these moments that it just steals, right? And so again, it's way less focus on booze, but again, I'm spending more time. And I think that's what's really great because it's going from this thought of draining to expansion, right? So second favorite thing is that I am spending all this time and it's energetically a lot higher for me. 3, I say this a lot and I mean this, like we are all divinely created, so unique, our superpowers, we all have something to give to this world that only we can do. And we're all very, very, very similar. We want to belong. We want to be seen. We want to make a difference. We want to be loved. Like those are core values that we all have. And I knew when I started sharing this journey that I wasn't alone, right? I knew, especially when I started sharing, I would get direct messages. People would come up to me. Like I knew I was not alone, but I don't think I knew how not alone I was, right? Even people that have only shared to me, maybe that they want to do things differently, or maybe haven't shared at all, but I see the likes or I see the shares or whatever that looks like. And so I know that I'm not alone because we all have those basic needs, those struggles, right? And so I think that's been really interesting to step in this place of knowing that we're not alone. And then if you're somebody who is thinking about their relationship with alcohol, but all around you, you see people drinking at the pace they've always drank at, right? You're just like, Holly, like I'm the only one that feels that way. You're not. We're really good. I was really good at hiding the pain that I had from drinking, right? I was really good at not letting anybody know. And I guarantee you're not alone in whatever version of problematic drinking you're in. I guarantee that. And again, that just inspires me more and more to step into this space, to share these stories, to launch a program, which I'm going to share here in a bit, because we're not alone. And yes, and by honoring that we're not alone and showing our humanity, it allows us to step into that divine space of creation and uniqueness and ability that only you can provide to this world. And so that's just those 3 insights I've had for myself of my favorite things. There's plenty more. I've talked about all the benefits of not drinking at the pace with that. I could go on and on and on, but those are kind of like the themes that I've noticed throughout this year. So let's talk about my guest insights. I have talked to phenomenal humans, from those who are brand new into their sober journey, those who are like, I don't even know what that looks like, to people who've been sober for 10 plus years, go to AA, their life, according to them, was a total train wreck, right? But almost every single person, these three themes um, are similar. Every single person had some version of this story. And it's my favorite thing because, again, it shows we're not alone. It shows that our responses to things that aren't serving our life are pretty similar. This first theme, which is my favorite thing, this is probably one of my favorite topics, is like, I didn't really have a problem. Almost every single guest said some version of like, I didn't really have a problem, right? I quote, didn't have a problem because it wasn't what society tells us an alcohol problem looks like. And comparing it, right? We can very easily compare it. Well, hey, I'm not drinking vodka out of a coffee cup at 8 a.m. Bad. But every single person had a lack of energy. They had, no confidence. They were not getting the rest they wanted. They didn't like how they were showing up. They didn't feel good. They just knew that something was wrong, right? And again, maybe there wasn't quote problem, right? But there was problematic drinking, right? However you want to look at it, but there's something telling them like, this isn't right. This isn't it. And so I think it's so important, and why I have these guests on is like, you have to define what your problem looks like, right? Nobody gets to define that for you. Nobody. I had a guest, I loved her, Amanda Patton. She's phenomenal. You'll have to check out that episode. She had some DUIs, been arrested like 4 times for different things, like self-proclaimed, just the life, just a total dumpster fire. And when I told her about my drinking, she was like, that's crazy. Like that was that. I wish that was my level of drinking. Like that was not even a problem. But for me, it was. And for me to compare my problem, whether I was drinking more or less to anybody else, the only one that does a disservice to is me. Right. So again, defining your own problem. What's great is we get to define our own solution, right? Which is what sober is about, is being really intentional with your problem. And then how do you eliminate those? So maybe it's not the drinking that it's a problem, but if it's causing all of these other things, then it really is. And I'm on fire for this topic because those comparison of problems is what keeps us stuck, is what keeps us not from moving forward. And so, again, that was one of my favorite things, to be like, wow, no matter where these people were at, they all didn't think they had a quote problem. So, number 2, kind of back to this whole like journey that I shared, right? How it's like a journey. Like, there are no overnight successes. I think people probably looked at me and said, that just happened out of nowhere. And I'm like, did it? Because for years I had been like, maybe it's a little bit too much. Like every Monday I'm starting fresh. Like I'm going to get my shit together every Monday. Dry January, sober October, any sticky thing I loved, right? Like I knew for years I wanted to do something different. And so many of my guests had that same thing. And it would take 1 to 5 years from the moment they realized that didn't serve them anymore to actually stopping, right? So there are no overnight success. They're starting and they're stopping and it's failing and it's figuring things out and it's going until you are so ready to change. That's the only thing you can do. There are no overnight successes. And if you see somebody, know that they had struggled and they were like you. I think so many times people see people who are really strong in their sobriety and really faith and be like, well, I'm not like you. But I bet you're more like those people than not. They struggled, but they found the way to do it. And again, you're showing every time you try something and you learn something and you try again, like you're showing courage to approach this, right? So like honor that, knowing that you should be really proud that you're showing up as somebody who doesn't need booze, right? And trying it out. But again, there's no overnight successes. I've interviewed powerhouse women and men who are doing great things in the world, and it took them a while. So showing yourself grace, continuing to show up is what it's all about. Favorite thing 3 of the guests that I worked with is they too, like myself, had tried many things, right? Diet and stop, moderation, all that type of stuff. But it really truly stuck when they realized that the behavior they were choosing, alcohol over them, just did not align with who they wanted to be. They looked in the mirror and said, I don't like that person. I don't recognize her. Like, that's not what I want for my life. That's when it changed. Because otherwise it feels restriction and punishment. And I can't and I don't get to, and all this crap that is not fun, especially for women out there who know what they want in their life, right? Who have created success on all these levels. Are like, I don't want to get told I don't get to do something. But when you get to choose to not do it because it doesn't serve you, that's a game changer. It's like that glass of wine I talked about earlier. I didn't feel bad about it. I was like, I don't like this. Just if I was eating something, I'm like, it doesn't feel good in my body. I'm not going to do it. That changed everything for me. That moment when I heard that whisper in my voice, just say, this can't be it anymore. This just can't be who you are. And I started to look at what I was doing and how I was showing up and what I was saying was important to me, and they weren't aligned. And if I took this one action, it was a big one to not quit drinking, or excuse me, to quit drinking, it could change everything. So many of my guests, it really stuck when they just said, it just doesn't align with a woman who wants to be a more present wife, mother, friend, business owner, human, whatever that version is for you. It just doesn't match anymore. And that's okay. So those are my 3 favorite from each. I could go again on and on. And, I commend all my guests for coming on to show such courage at different phases of their sober/soberish journeys, because it really takes the authenticity and courage and grace to come up and say, hey, I did not like what I was doing, but I had the courage and the self-trust enough to do something different. So I'm so excited for next year. And one of the things I'm kicking off is in February 7th, I'm launching my first group program. It's called the Soberish Experiment. I'm taking what got me to my soberish place, years of coaching, years of development, education that I've done, my experience of working with high performers, and putting a 12-week program together to support you in your soberish journey. We'll have weekly coaching calls, curriculum and content in those, some accountability. We're going to try out the sober, adding in our soberish with the support of community, with the support of myself, for you just to try it out, right? We're not starting in January because that can feel too much. And if dry January doesn't work for you, you can come to me and we'll start in February. But it's really a place for you to experiment with us, to try it on. If you've been somebody who's talked about wanting to change your relationship with alcohol, there's no better time than now. There's never going to be a good time. There's always going to be things that are going on. So you'll have the support with me through what will be spring break, through Valentine's Day, all those moments that can be really triggering. And we're going to go through sober and soberish and see what that feels like. So the Soberish Experiment, launching February 7th, you can go to soberishuprising.com and you can sign up to be on the wait list. The program will be launched here in a couple weeks, but sign up. You can see it on that site. Would love to have you. It's going to be a small group of individuals, and we're going to have fun doing it. Soberish isn't punitive. It's not deprivation. It's not sad. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. So if you're somebody who's curious, let me know. And if you want to chat before to see if it's good for you, I would welcome the opportunity. So February 7th, and would love to have you. So before we wrap up again, and I will see you in 2024, I already have some great podcasts in the pipe for that. And I want to just share a couple reflection questions for you, right? As you think through this year. I know you're probably seeing things from everywhere, like prep for 2024. Great. I know I've got some planners out there, but here's some questions I just want to leave you with to reflect on. And maybe ties into drinking, not drinking, maybe not, but these are just 5 questions for you to start to contemplate as you move into the year. So on reflection, number 1, what are you most proud of this year? What are the things that you're like, that feels so good that I did that? And this is most proud of, but give them all to me, all the things. Number 2, what is something that you said you wanted to do in 2023, but you didn't quite get done? What was that thing that you're like, this is the year I do XYZ? What is that? And maybe just be curious about why that didn't happen. No judgment, no guilt, no shame, just a curiosity, like, why didn't that happen? And then question 3, think of 2024. What are the emotions, the feelings you want to feel next year? Again, not the to-do list, but what are the feelings every day you want to feel? Joyful, proud, happy. Did you guys see the little thumbs up button that just happened? Sorry for those listening to my little zoomy or a little thing pop up. Joyful, happy, confident, powerful. What are those emotions? Number 3, when you think of 2024, how do you want to feel? Not what do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? What are the emotions you want to feel? Do you want to be joyful, happy, content, peaceful, powerful? Like when you envision what it would feel like, what are those emotions? And this can be a little bit challenging because we like to think, what am I going to do? But let's think about how we want to feel. Number 4, when you think about those, who do you have to become to do that, to feel those? Who do you have to become to be somebody who feels peaceful? What does she look like? What is she doing in her day? This one can take a little bit to like download. How does she talk to herself, right? Who do you have to become to be somebody who wakes up and feels powerful and content and accomplished and joyful? Who is she? And the last one is, in a year from now, what is something you want to look back on just with such pride? Maybe it's that thing left over from 2023. Maybe it's new. Maybe you're not sure yet. But like, what is that one thing that you're like, man, it's going to feel so good come December 13th, 2024 to have this happen? Again, just some questions I've been noodling on, working with clients on. So sharing that here for you to think through. So again, thank you for being a part of my community. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for doing the hard work of looking at your relationship with alcohol. I would love to have you join my program, the Soberish Experiment. So again, go to soberishuprising.com and it's going to be so fun. A lot of other fun treats. We're going to have some mocktail happy hours and it's going to be a great place to support each other on our Soberish journeys. And I just want to leave you with this. And it's something that I've worked with on a coach. I've worked with Tracy Litt, who's phenomenal. And she really talks about like who you've been and who you are currently is no indication of who you can be in the future. So when you look back on the things you've done, the way things you've consumed, the way you've done, that does not mean that everything can't be different from this exact moment on. No indication. Maybe you've tried and failed 100 times, 1,000 times. Like you just need that one time of success and that next time of success. Do not spend so much time looking the review, thinking of what you could have done, should have done, would have done, that it keeps you from the path, from moving forward. Who you've been is no indication of who you can be. And I hope for you, that includes the Soberish. So again, so much gratitude, so much celebration for what we've been able to do this year. And I cannot wait for 2024. And remember, everything you want is on the other side of saying no to that drink.